is one of the most important things that was drilled into me through culinary school, of tasting food while you're cooking it. And one of my instructors was a very old French chef. He was almost at retirement age then. And I remember him sitting me down one day when we were talking about seasoning food and tasting. And I tell all my students now when I teach, I tell them exactly the same thing. He said, you have to think of something like a stew as a piece of classical music. And I'm looking at it very strange. And he said that all classical music starts off nice and soft, and then slowly it builds up to what they call a crescendo, where there's lots, and then it dies down again. And he said your stew, your soup, whatever it is exactly the same. Once you start cooking it, it's okay, and then when it's cooking, you taste it, and it's starting to build flavour, and then you season it, and it's starting to build flavour, and it'll get to a certain point where it's perfect. And then if you leave it or add more salt or anything else, it's going off to not good again. And I've always remembered that. So one of my most difficult, because I've been training chefs for around the world since like 1982, and one of my major things when I moved to America was getting young American chefs to taste their food. They wanted to cook it so. And it's really, and I know that happens when I go into restaurants, because even my wife will sit there and say, what do you think? I'll say, needs some more salt, but it needs this. She said, you're right. And I said, if they tasted that before it came out, they could have put a pin and stirred it again. So when I teach students, and when I'm cooking myself for people or doing a party for somebody, because I often do like fine dining dinner parties for people, it's not unusual for me to taste one sauce 8, 9, 10 times before I'm satisfied, yeah, it's perfect, send it. Even if the customer's waiting, okay, I'd rather they waited and got it right than just send it out. So that was one of the biggest things that I push on youngsters coming in this industry. Don't be afraid, taste your food. It's really important. And I say to them, you wouldn't expect to go and buy a car if it hadn't been test driven first and checked over. So why are you expecting people to buy your food when you haven't test driven it or tested it first? So that's my theory.